Welcome to We Are Women, Unapologetically, the podcast that talks about the good, bad, ugly, and awesome. Careers, life transitions, confidence, and everything in between. Because shift happens, but you don't have to do it alone.
Hello and welcome to We Are Women Unapologetically. My name is Jessica Cumming, and today I am joined by Anne Trager. Anne is an executive coach and founder of the Potentializer Academy. She specializes in helping high-performing leaders and teams unlock clarity, energy, and impact. With experience as a 5-time entrepreneur, publisher, and consultant across both North America and Europe, she brings a truly global perspective. A certified black belt and a former national martial arts champion, she combines the discipline of sport with neuroscience, biohacking, and evidence-based strategies to her work. Her clients value her ability to transform complexity into clarity, overwhelm into focus, and raw potential into measurable, lasting impact. And thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
Oh, I am great. It's great to be here.
You have an amazing background and even a more interesting story. Why don't you tell me about how you went from North America to France, becoming an entrepreneur, and all of your travels and studies?
My story began with a lot of uncertainty. When I was 7, I lost my mother. When I was 8, I lost my father. So I was twice orphaned immediately. I did find homes thereafter. In this early uncertainty, I had to learn to adapt and survive the playbook for life. I mean, at the beginning, it's your parents. It just disappears suddenly. And for me, that was, yes, I was lonely. Yes, I was frustrated. Yes, there was a sense of being an outsider, of being different from other people. However, that was my normality. Okay? It wasn't strange. It just was the way it was. It took me until my teenage years to realize that resilience, which I had, was also a choice. Absolutely nothing was the way everybody else's life was or the way it was supposed to be. And what that did for me is it opened up this whole space of dream. I could dream. But dreaming wasn't enough. You actually had to do something about it. You had to make decisions. You had to make choices. And then when you make a choice, you have to have a whole lot of determination to get something from that. I decided in my mid-teens that I was going to go to France. I was living in a small town. There was no possible financial way for me to go to France. So I figured it out, and I decided I was going to study French. I got scholarships to study French. I got on a program to go to France as part of my studies. And I decided to stay. I remember telling the librarian at my university, and he said, "Oh, you're going off on the study abroad program." And I said, "Yeah, absolutely, and I'm going to stay." And he said, "Oh, that's what everybody says." And I said, "No, I am going to stay." It was so clear to me. I didn't know how, but I knew that I was going to start this new life abroad. And so I did. And I went abroad, and I learned to be a chef. I thought, well, hey, I'm in France. I can learn about all the good food here. I learned to be a chef, and I worked as a private chef in a number of different places across the world. It was very fun. And then I was like, I've done that. What else can I do? And I had these language skills that I had picked up. So I started translating. I had a catering business in Paris and a translating business. I was doing that. And then I was like, maybe I can do something with more impact. So I started to do international communications and working for these big companies, a lot more money in that, 6-figure business. So fast forwarding, I decided after doing that for a while, I really got to do something else. I remember it was such a powerful moment. I had moved from Paris to southwestern France, and I was getting on a plane at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to a meeting in Paris at which I knew we would get nothing done. It was the time when everything was done in person, and I had to travel all day long, and then I had to travel all the way back. And I was in the airport, and I called my husband, and I said, listen, I'm going to take a sabbatical. My husband is wonderful, and he said, okay, we'll figure it out. By the evening flight home, I figured out what I was going to do with that sabbatical, which was to start a publishing company, of all things. I had not exactly thought it all the way through because publishing is a rather strange business model. Anyway, that was the next business. And so I did my publishing thing, and it was really fun for a while, and I moved on. So you see, there's this pattern. of just like, oh, what's the next dream? And I think I'm going to do it.
And you do.
There's a certain amount of relentless drive. I make a decision and then I do it. The dark side of the story is at the end of this publishing thing. I was in my mid-40s. I had a young child, this new business. We had moved. I was in this new place, and I really lost my edge. I remember the day crumbling to the floor at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I used to call it the witching hour. I crumbled to the floor, literally pulling my hair out.
Wow.
And my little girl, she was 4 or 5 at the time, and she looked at me and she said, "You're such a witch." I mean, like literally, it was like, oh my God, who is this?
Right.
This is not me. And that was the turning point. This was not me. So I had to then start climbing back on my own terms. I went to see the doctors to see if there was something wrong with me. They all said, "Oh, my little lady, you're just going to have to accept the fact that, at your age," I was in my mid-40s, things start getting a little tough. And you might want to stop the sports and blah, blah, blah. There is no destiny here that you're going to convince me of. I am going to do something different. So I dove really headfirst into neuroscience and into biohacking and into martial arts, full on.
When you were going to these doctors and they were telling you, don't do some of the sports you were doing or don't do some of these things, basically saying, this is the reality of it, you're in your 40s. Can you take me deeper into how you were feeling at the time and how you decided to pretty much just say, forget you, I'm not going to listen to you, I'm going to thrive forward?
Yeah. Well, it was a tough time. My body hurt all over. My knees were shot, menopause. That's why I was seeing doctors. Otherwise, I wouldn't have seen doctors. What happened is I just couldn't compute that somebody said I could not define my own life, like that there was some sort of, like this was the way forward. And I was like, well, there's nothing I can do. There must be something I can do. When they said, "Oh, my little lady," I got a little angry. There was a little bit of anger in that, but more in the condescending attitude that I encountered. It was the condescension that got me angry. And then there was this part of me that just didn't understand what was being said to me. I mean, like I literally had not thought that it was not possible to design my own future. Call me naive or empowered. I don't care what you call me. Call me crazy or delusional or anything you want. I don't care, because I'm going to drive forward and try to figure it out. That's what I do. That's what I had always done. It was this kind of cognitive dissonance that was really my savior. I love to say that because most of the time when you see cognitive dissonance, it's a symptom of something. Well, maybe it's just a signal. I would say any symptom is maybe just a signal. I was also very lucky. I did meet some doctors who were able to say, whoa, hey, let's take a look at your nutrition and what's inflammatory here and step back. I got really involved in the whole biohacking movement as a result. I found some people who could guide me on a path for me to recuperate my health, my foundational health, and then from there to fine-tune my personal energy systems, because it's all about energy. It's about how you wake up in the morning. I had to recuperate my sleep. I had to find the right foods for me. I had to find the pace and the rhythm that worked for me. I had to figure all of that out through experimentation. And then once you've got it, you got it. And you keep fine-tuning it. That's the game. It's never a one and done. It's that change, that constant change. So you fast forward again. At 50, I got my black belt. I won the French national championship. And to this day, I do squats every day because I can. It was that moment of decision, drive, and determination, deciding that I was going to have another story. Not the story people were telling me I was going to have, or the victim story that I could have come up with, but something else. I'm going to do it.
I love what you just said about a symptom being a signal. Oftentimes, we have something going on with our bodies and we ignore it. We think it's just going to go away or get better. You mentioned at this point in your life, you were going through early menopause. That's something that I've noticed as I'm getting older. We didn't necessarily talk about perimenopause. And now I feel like more women are talking about that. all of these different symptoms, and you also mentioned your diet, these are all things that we don't want to talk about, we're embarrassed or ashamed to talk about. But in reality, it's our body that's giving us these signals, giving us this data. There's something going on. So thank you for sharing your entire story, because I've talked to so many women lately that are saying something was just off. And for the women out there, and men too, if there's something going on with your body, listen to it. Don't ignore it, because it is giving you a signal.
Well, and it affects everything else. It's all one. So if you're not sleeping, I get people come to me and say, I'm so on edge and I just can't understand how I can get my team to do this and that and the other thing, and I'm overwhelmed. How are you doing on your sleep? And they're like, oh, yeah, sleep. The less I sleep, the better I am. And it's like, no, not really. It all goes together. And when you are able to fine tune it to you, then you really do release those superpowers. How are you going to do that? And then how are you going to keep it? And then how are you going to reconnect that to the world around you so that everybody gets to benefit from these cool little ripples coming out from you, Jessica, or from you, listener?
When you're talking about this, it makes me think there was a time in my life where I definitely relate to this. I wasn't sleeping. I was not happy at work. Just different things were happening. I remember there was a time that I woke up one morning and I was peaceful. I had a great night's rest. Quite honestly, this was just a few weeks after my divorce with the corporate world. And how could I feel peaceful? Knowing that's amazing once you are able to shut your brain off to get the rest. And yes, that ripple effect is amazing. The energy that you can exude and the work that can get done and what you can think of and accomplish, it truly is amazing.
And the shift is not something magical. It's this mix of necessity and truly fierce decision making. Okay. There are times when it feels really reckless. But I mean, is it reckless? And that's the question I ask all of your listeners to ask themselves. What are you really trading off in your current situation? And are you willing to live that compromise? Well, I wasn't willing.
That's a great point. And that is exactly what we are talking about in season 2 is what are women willing to trade off? A lot of times the clarity perspective is so scary, right? When they get clear and truly listen to what they've already known, it's almost like people back away because they don't want to move forward or hear the truth. Have you found that in your own life?
I hear what you're saying. I see it too. I see it in my clients. Sometimes the truth comes and slaps you in the face. And there are two things that happen. I've had moments like that. And there are ways where it's more gradual. There are things that are more gradual, understanding who you are, where you get stuck, and how you can change that. I'm hesitant about that word change because I actually don't believe that we need to fix ourselves. I think what we need to do is understand deeply who we are. I have some great tools for that, including a genetic personality assessment, which is the coolest thing because then you can see hard science. Wow, this is what my potential is. Am I living up to it or not? It's amazing. But you have to figure out who you are and align your biology. What was going on with me was just pure fatigue. I had been stressed out beyond myself during that period, and I was just exhausted. So I had to figure out how to align my biology in a way that worked for me. And then I had to set up these daily systems. When you're doing all of that, you don't actually have time to think of the fear. You just move into action. And then there's this mindset thing. It's about how you treat that adversity or how you treat the fear. Courage is not about not having fear.
Yeah.
We have to learn to feel these feelings. Just feel the feelings. It's part of life. You get the fear and you get the excitement. Actually, they're kind of very similar, by the way. Just depends on how you interpret it. And courage is acting no matter what you're feeling. But if you want to feel the joy, then you're going to feel the sadness. And resilience is absorbing what those emotions are, those less comfortable emotions, and releasing the energy of them into action, into something else. I mean, when was the last time you turned a wall into a springboard? We do it all the time, and we don't think about it. We don't acknowledge ourselves for doing it, but we do it all the time. So I say, lean into that. Turn those walls into springboards. Have that intention in mind. And own who you are completely and fully and absolutely. And that's how you claim your agency.
I know there are so many women out there that are afraid of the fear and they don't want to face it. And a lot of times they let that paralyze them. And actually, it's not just women, it's men too. I truly believe that once people really look deep into who they are and own it, I love that you say that. And the word that I would add to the end of that is unapologetically. So,
completely and totally.
yeah. Sometimes we will let other people's opinions or other people's experiences or other people's fears dictate our own. And by doing that, we're not being true to ourselves. It's a great message.
I believe that every person is really truly unique and has this vital power in them. We don't need to constantly grow and change or to constantly be improving ourselves. We need to own those unique innate strengths that we have. I'm not saying don't do self-development. I love constantly changing, but all of that is icing on the cake. And what a cake it is. It is a delicious, wonderful, extraordinary cake with some bitter flavors, some sweet flavors, and some sour flavors. If you don't have all of the flavors, then you don't get the full mouthfeel of existence. So my invitation to everybody is to really embrace it, that full spectrum of feelings. And no, some of it doesn't feel so good. But when you lean into it and you relax a little bit, there are techniques you can use so that you can really be here and now fully relishing the richness of being alive with confidence and with freedom and with awe from relaxing into the experience, acknowledging it, accepting it, absorbing the energy, letting it go. It's like this breathing movement.
What would you recommend for someone that doesn't know where to start and trying to make the change in truly owning who they are?
Okay, I'm going to say my suggestion is to get a coach. Really work with somebody who can mirror and who can ask those questions so that you can dig deep into who you are. The tool that I'm using right now, which is called Meet Yourself, is also a door in. You look at your genes and your thinking patterns and your behaviors and you see where you are on that. I have a ton of breathing techniques. I love them. I do them all the time. But I'm not going to give you breathing techniques. What I'm going to suggest is a really simple technique, which is savoring. That is stopping, finding something beautiful that you enjoy, that you can feel some sort of gratitude for, and then you prolong the moment. Savoring is all about prolonging that moment of enjoyment a little beyond what it is meant to be. I used to do this with my daughter. I used to drive her to school every morning. There would be this incredible gray and pink sky in the morning. And I used to literally stop the car and just say, wow, look at that sky. Just look at it. And she'd roll her eyes and she's like, come on, let's just go. There was the time I was with my second husband, the father of my daughter. We had just met and we were walking in this beautiful botanical garden in April when the peonies were in bloom. Literally first date. I was so amazed by these peonies that I started to cry, but like cry of complete awe and joy. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. He's never going to call me again. Anyway, he did. And we got married. And we're all on this drive looking for some kind of fulfillment, chasing this elusive kind of external validation, perfection, or enlightenment. I had this dream when I was in my 20s. And my dreams are really crystal clear. I had this dream that I was having lunch with the director of the movie. He offers me a choice of lunch menus. One was the no-fat menu. One was the tasting menu. The third option was immediate enlightenment. So which one did I choose?
You know, honestly, I would think that you would go for either the tasting or enlightenment, but I'm going to go with tasting.
Yeah, tasting menu. I chose the tasting menu. Completely, not a second of hesitation until I woke up in the morning and I'm like, why did you not choose immediate enlightenment? I was kicking myself. And then I do what I do, which is say, well, okay, if it's going to be tasting menu, let's do the tasting menu thing. I've been doing the tasting menu thing for a really long time, and it wasn't until very recently that I realized that it wasn't a choice, that enlightenment, I already have it. Like I thought I had missed it, but actually somebody said this to me the other day and said, no, you've totally misunderstood that dream. It's not that you made the wrong choice, it's that there was no other choice. You are already enlightened. Whatever we're chasing is inside us now. It's inside each and every one of us. It's inside of you. So all the chasing that we're doing outside to perfect ourselves, to get better, we don't need to do that. It's inside of us. I call it the already there. Find the already there. And that's where the power is, to be truly present and living in this extraordinarily vibrant world that we can live in.
I like that a lot. How you take all of these different moments and truly savor them. I think that is something everyone can learn from. It's something everyone should try to practice. We are in a hustle culture. And when we truly take the time to be present, to see what's in front of us, and to appreciate not only the good, but also the bad.
The good doesn't exist without the bad.
Exactly.
It goes together. Yeah. If you don't have the sorrow, you don't have the happiness, because you have nothing to compare it to. Right. That's the way we function. Flavor, a really beautiful mouthfeel, is complete. That means you have all of the flavors, the bitter and the salty and the sour and a tiny little bit of the sweet. Okay, not too much of the sweet because it like overpowers everything. And I think that we have something to learn from that in our day-to-day, that maybe we're actually not savoring enough those down moments, accepting them for being there and tasting the bitter. Well, what does that bring to the meal? What does that bring to the flavor?
And the word that comes to mind is balance. You really, truly have to have balance, whether it be a meal, your personal life versus professional life, things that you don't want to do versus things that you do want to do, because both have to get done, right? Kind of like cleaning the house versus going out to the beach.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. You have to have balance and you have to have both. You can't be on all the time. You need to be on and off, on and off. If you want to enjoy happiness, you need to be happy and then not happy. It doesn't have to be this dramatic thing. It's just not so happy.
Sweeping the floor doesn't make me happy.
Yeah.
But it's something that still needs to be done. Happiness. You have accomplished something. You weren't happy doing it. You accomplished something. And that's something to be grateful for.
So I found the trick for those kinds of tasks is to actually be doing it for somebody else. When I take out the garbage, rather than grumbling, why don't I take it out? No. I'm like, if I take it out, then my husband or my daughter doesn't have to take it out. We're all going to appreciate that new, empty, clean space. And it changes everything for me. I don't manage to do that all the time. Sometimes I grumble. But I do manage that from time to time, and it does make it quite nice.
Very curious to know more about this genetic-based work.
It's a personality assessment, which I've incorporated into my work. Okay. And for me, it works really well as part of a pathway. My process, I call it reveal, reboot, rebalance, and reconnect. This is the reveal section. We start there. And it's a personality test, a little bit different than other personality tests because it has 3 different levels. The first level is your thinking motivators. It's how your genetics were transformed over the first 25 years of your life when you're very influenced by your surroundings, your culture, your schooling, your family, and so forth. You develop certain preferences. That's one level. Then you have the genetic reading of what your innate potential is on 54 personality traits. Yeah. Genetics is interesting because it can be expressed or not expressed. It doesn't say anything about how good you are at anything. It just says that you could be, okay? This is something you could be really skilled at, or this is something that will take a little bit more energy. And the thing is that we're extraordinarily plastic in our minds. We can develop skills even when they are not innate potential. And so that's the third level, our acquired competencies here and now. And so you get this very textured, dynamic view of who you were born to potentially be, how that nature was nurtured during those first years, and what came from that, and then what you're doing with it now. It's an extraordinarily positive personality assessment that I really like to use, because from there we can see what's draining you, where have you totally outdone yourself, what could you lean into that you haven't discovered yet. For example, I am completely tone deaf. You do not want me to sing. My family does not want me to sing. I do not listen to music. Somebody in the family will put music on and I'll let it go for about 15 minutes to pretend that I'm enjoying it. And then I'll say, please, can you turn it off? This is who I am. Comes out on the music one. I am the only one who has high potential talent for that in the family. Completely, totally high potential, off the charts, high potential talent for that. I just laughed when I saw that, and I thought, well, that's something I could decide to lean into and develop. Now, it makes total sense to me. I remember when I stopped listening. And when you stop listening, music goes out the way. And I know why I stopped listening. It was a choice. We do what we have to do to protect ourselves. So I was able to very clearly see that choice that I made, see that, wow, here I am, 60 now, maybe I can do something with that. And also to connect with the fact that I'm pretty good at languages and I do live in a foreign country, and that maybe I don't like to listen to music because I'm so sensitive to it that it has to be in really particular conditions. So I have a friend who's promised to take me to a well-known concert hall so that I could, have a different experience of music. There's so much we can do with it. And that's just one aspect. It's not the personality aspect. It's a different part of the test that you get all this cool information about yourself. So that's the reveal part of the program. And then, it's not really enough to know it. It's important then to okay, what are you going to do with it? Where are you now? What do you want to do with it? How do you rebalance that with what's in place right now? How do you reconnect that to who you are and where you want to be? So that's the program.
I love that this program really digs into not necessarily who you are now, but who you are meant to be. Mm-hmm. It just makes me think about people out there in a job that they don't like, in a relationship that they're not happy in, even living in a country that they don't want to be in. And they are sitting there thinking, I was meant for more, or there has to be more than this. Yeah. I truly am a believer in that everything that happens, we have two different ways we can look at it. We can look at it as it's happening to us or it's happening for us.
Absolutely.
And I also believe that the energy you put out is the energy you get back. If you focus on the positive, more positive things start to happen. And don't get me wrong, you've had some bad days too. It's what you learn from it. It is how you decide to continue forward. I would like to shift the conversation a little bit. You mentioned that you had a catering business and studied under a chef in France. How cool is that?
I know. How cool is that? I thought it was cool too. Yeah. And my poor husband, I think he thought he was signing on to get some really cool meals, but I don't cook all that much anymore.
You studied to become a chef. You became a chef. You started this catering business. And you've done 5 different businesses now. For someone out there thinking, I have this dream, I want to go after it, regardless of what type of business it is, what advice would you give to them?
I invite everybody to please take this in a positive way. To start a business, you have to be completely and absolutely delusional. If you have any connection with reality, the failure is harder to take. And there will be failure. Step by step, having your own business and building your own business is hard work. The percentage of small businesses that fail is extraordinary. So if you start thinking about that, you're definitely going to fail. So don't think about that. Be completely and totally delusional. Believe in what you're doing so much that you'll just do what it takes, and you do it. And when something doesn't work, you pick yourself up and do something else. Now, just the other day, I had one of those things that happens in business. The last 3 months, I was working on this really big project. I found out a piece of legal information that was going to make the project entirely impossible. Totally outside of my control. And all that work that gone into it, just no longer there, poof, gone. I was surprisingly calm about it. Went to see my husband. I said, "You're not going to believe it." Then I went into this moment of crawling under my covers and saying, "Oh, the carpet was pulled out from under my feet again." And I watched a whole bunch of series, like really dumb series, binging and binging. I did that. And then I drank a little bit of wine, and I did my little wallowing thing. And then a little bit later, I went to see, I'm in a mastermind of other small business owners. And I said, okay, I'm ready to share this with you now. And this is where I am right now. And so there started to be a little bit of an opening to, okay, what are the next steps? And I said, no, let's stop. I still want to wallow. I need to have my wallowing time. I need to feel the pain. It took me another few days of feeling the pain and feeling the frustration. See, this is where we get to what we were saying earlier. It's about actually feeling it. Because if I deny it and I go immediately back into action, it doesn't work, okay? I needed to absorb it and then release it. You absorb the energy for potential to be used, you have to release it, okay? But if you don't absorb it because you're so stiff and you're like, no, then you don't have any energy to release. It happens in business all the time. It's like a daily kind of thing with more or less amplitude. So expect that. But be delusional and just go for it and be completely crazy in your dream. That's my advice.
You went through the wallowing of what was happening in your situation. Mm-hmm. What happened after? What's the outcome of this?
I have enough practice that the workarounds, I got them in 24 hours. Like overnight sleeping before I had finished my wallowing, I knew exactly what the next steps were going to be. And I also like, oh yeah, there we go again. The universe giving me a kick in the butt so that I do what I was thinking about doing about 5 years ago that I never really have done because I'm like, oh my God, that's such a big project. So it was just, but that's what it was. It was like, oh yeah, so I've been playing small again. That's just how I interpret it. I have no idea if there's any universe looking out for me, but I like to tell that story. I like to say, hey, this happened to me. What meaning can I give it that will serve me? The meaning I gave it is that this was too small. What I need to be working on is that bigger thing, which includes my workaround.
So that was your springboard.
Exactly. And I needed to gather some energy before I could springboard it. And that was the wallowing for me. You feel the fear. Okay, well, feel the fear. There's so much energy in fear. There's energy in anger. There's energy in all those emotions. There's energy in sorrow. There's energy in all of that. If you feel it, then you can release it into something else, into movement.
I really like the fact that you're talking about not only feeling it, it's critical to go through all of the different emotions, regardless of what they are, and then releasing it, acknowledge. Right? Say, okay, this happened.
Yeah.
I know that I'm angry, but I'm going to feel it and then release it. Because the more that you just hold on to those pent up emotions, the worse it becomes when you actually do have to release. One last thing that I did want to touch on that I meant to bring up earlier in the conversation is, tell me about this black belt. That is another pretty cool thing that you have accomplished. You mentioned that you did that you said you were 50 when that happened. Mm-hmm. You said that your knees hurt all the time. And you still do squats today?
Like every day. Yeah.
And because I think that this really ties into accomplishing something. So I'm going to ask the question. Do you find joy in doing squats?
I do because I can. How extraordinary that I can do these squats every day. Sometimes it's harder than others and the muscles hurt, but it's really cool. It gets the blood circulating, works the biggest muscles in my body, which means those are going to be healthy muscles and keep me stronger longer. There are a whole bunch of health reasons to exercise in general, and squats are a pretty good exercise to do.
It amazes me because we're talking about 10 to 15 years ago, you said that your knees hurt then. I'm just kind of curious to go from knees hurting to being a black belt to still doing squats. How did that happen?
Well, first of all, I need to resolve the knee pain. It was an inflammatory thing for me. Okay. Really had to figure it out. There was just no way that was going to go on forever. I realized that high levels of constant stress are very negative for one's overall health. I was training for the national championship and for my black belt at the same time. I had stress of the business and stress of that. So I hadn't figured that out yet, but I had figured out my knees, and that was pretty good. So I could do it. And then I sprained my ankle right before the big competition, but I still beat the kids. I was competing against a bunch of 35-year-olds. I was so proud of myself. I really wanted to do that, and I did. It was kind of a fleeting thing because then afterwards I started to feel like high-level performance is not what I need right now. What I needed was to figure out how to find a balance, the movement that was so important for me that I was doing out of spite. Spite is a beautiful motivator, despite the doctors. And no, there's no way that this is going to stop me from doing it. I am going to do this. So I did it. And then I was like, okay, now you have to think about your future. And that was the second phase.
It all comes back to balance, right? Making sure that you're balancing, taking the good with the bad, savoring all those different moments and truly being present. And will you please tell our listeners if they want to look at getting in contact with you or learning more about you or the work that you do, what is the best way for them to find you?
I am on LinkedIn. You can go to my website, which is at potentializer-academy.com. I also do have a podcast on an entirely different topic, which is about living well with technology. It's called the Human Pulse Podcast. And we talk about all this crazy technology and how we can live well with it right here and now.
Your podcast is one that you do with your husband. Is that correct?
Absolutely. He's a tech consultant and I am who I am. We bring all of that together.
Well, Anne, I want to thank you so much for being here with me today. I truly believe that this was a very timely conversation. As the world we are living in and people are hurrying, we just need to find the balance. We need to slow down. We need to savor the moments. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear this. And until next time, stay fierce, stay bold, but most importantly, stay unapologetically you.